I'm Denise, I'm the Scottish one.
And she's a non-fiction editor. And I'm Louise, the English one.
And she's a fiction editor. And together,
we're the Editing Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Editing Podcast. So Denise, what are we talking about this week?
Hello, yes, well, so this week we have 18 blogs for you that offer guidance on various aspects of writing craft.
And there were hundreds to pick from.
Yes.
We decided to focus on some of our favourites, blogs that post regularly and are in the main curated by editors and book coaches. Though there are several that don't fit into this category, but we just had to include them anyway because we love them and they're great.
Yes, there are loads of brilliant blogs we could have included, but you could do a podcast just about all the resources out there. So apologies if you've got a great writing craft blog that we didn't include. And we'll list all the links at the end so you can get your teeth into whatever you think fits your needs best. So Louise, why don't you kick off?
Okay, so first up is the editor's blog curated by Beth Hill. If you've not read Beth's book, The Magic of Fiction, you should if you're a fiction writer or a fiction editor. Now, Beth's blog focuses on the full spectrum of storycraft, but I especially love her big picture guidance, pace, characterization, viewpoint, conflict, story arc, all that big picture stuff. Beth's all about helping people learn to write better and want to write better. I think her tagline actually is something along those lines, but she's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds great. Next is the Subversive Copy Editor blog from Carol Saller. Now, Carol tends to focus on creative writing, and since non-fiction can also be creative, it's a go-to for everyone. And she knows her stuff, having served as chief copy editor for the 16th edition and consultant for the 17th edition of the Chicago Manual of Style, and as the editor of its Q&A, which I always loved reading.
Yeah, they're great. Hilarious sometimes,
very
actually.
funny, and doesn't pull her punches sometimes either.
Yeah.
And she's never prescriptive on her blog, just very mindful, and has some great advice, particularly on sentence level craft for any writer.
Yeah, I love Carol.
Yeah.
We have a blog from one of our guests, actually, Tim Storm of the Storm Writing School. The articles section of Tim's website is a goldmine for fiction authors who want to hone their storycraft, and I especially love his focus on character development and scene craft. And Tim's strength is taking structural problems and framing the solutions in really accessible ways. I always think his blog offers plenty of curtain lifting moments.
Yes. So next up are the posts on the Bacon editing website, courtesy of our colleague Dr. Claire Bacon. Claire specialises in editing for scientific and medical professionals, and she has advice on presenting research findings, bias-free writing and formatting scientific writing. Now, there's no blog tab on the website, so you'll need to scroll down the homepage to locate her words of wisdom. But I think this sort of thing is really helpful for people who are writing in this field, because I just don't think there is many easily accessible resources out there as there are for, say, fiction editing. So
that's interesting, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of fiction blogs.
Yes. Yeah, I think non-fiction, and particularly academic, is potentially less well served, really.
Yeah, that's a lesson for any editors out there.
Yeah.
So our next blog is Clarity, curated by our pal Lisa Poisson, an editor and book coach who's on the podcast this season, actually, to chat with us about book coaching. Now, Lisa has a journalistic background and years of book editing experience, and her blog focuses on the bigger picture stuff, so drafting, critiquing, managing the revision process, setting writing goals, dealing with submissions, loads of stuff. Really good.
Yeah, really thorough, yeah. Right, now, this might seem a little self-serving, but I'm shouting out your blog, Louise. The Parlour.
Well, thank you, Ma. Well, I think that's fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's our podcast.
Yes, it's our podcast, of course, yeah. But, if people aren't aware, Louise is a fiction editor and specifically a sentence level specialist, and there's a stack of articles on just about everything you need to know to make your novel work at line level. Things like dialogue, punctuation, viewpoint, show and tell. And the blog complements her book, Editing Fiction at Sentence Level. When's the paperback available, Louise?
I think sort of now.
Oh.
It's just I'm checking. I've got my author proofs coming through from Amazon, but it's so it's within days.
Exciting.
By the time this goes out, it'll be available. Yeah.
Lovely. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. Yes. Good stuff.
So next up is the Radical Copy Editor blog hosted by Alex Capitan. If you want gentle, clear and measured guidance on inclusive writing that seeks to, and I'm paraphrasing Alex here, liberate rather than oppress, and heal rather than harm, and you want to learn more about why language isn't neutral and the impact that can have on your writing and your audience, this
Mhm.
blog is where to head. It's absolutely amazing.
And I think that's just a really important thing that any writer should be aware of, and making sure
Mm,
that they are addressing that, whatever they're writing. Yeah.
yeah.
Now to the fabulous Anne Handley. Anne has a blog and a newsletter, which is magically called Total Anarchy, both of which are really worth delving into. Anne is one of the most influential marketers on social media, but she also comes from a writing and editing background, and her blog will help writers nail their web copy and business writing so that it reflects the writer's brand identity. And I've said this before, but if you ever get an opportunity to see Anne speak, she is absolutely fantastic, and she wears the most amazing suits as well. She really does. You should check out her Instagram feeds. Yeah.
Check out her wardrobe.
Yes, absolutely.
Our next pick is Helping Writers Become Authors, curated by KM Wyland. KM is a writer of historical and speculative fiction and storycraft books, and also offers author mentoring. And the blog has loads of great stuff on structure, so character arcs, scene structure, outlining, mastering first chapters, managing plot reveals, and loads more. Check that one out, definitely.
Yeah, we're fairly clicking through all these resources now, aren't we?
We are, we are.
Yeah. So another fabulous resource is the article section of the Writer's Digest website. The blog curates contributions from guest authors writing on subjects across multiple genres. And what I like is that they have a drop-down menu so you can access articles by genre, goal, and level, which makes the site much easier for a writer to navigate.
Yeah, and that's important because there is so much on there. Actually, it's a bit tricky to find
Yeah.
stuff. So now I'm going to return the favour and give Denise a shout out
Ooh.
because I absolutely love her blog, but in particular this series called Worry Free Writing. And again, sort of thinking back to what we were saying about Claire and how I think this is a field that's underserved, and I think you've really sort of nailed a niche there. Your business and education editing skills really show through in your blog because the solutions you offer are always really, really clearly explained,
Oh,
so that
thank you,
even
ma'am.
so that even it's important because even beginner writers can get their heads around punctuation and grammar, and
Mm.
there are lots of blogs that dig deep into more advanced writing techniques, but the nitty gritty sometimes does get overlooked, which means people who need to write for their business are being overlooked too.
Yeah.
So I hope you've planned more for that series.
Well, I do. As you know, Louise, my website is undergoing a total overhaul. Might have been undergoing a total overhaul for a while now.
A little while.
Yes, so much on my plate. But the learning centre that is planned for it will have the worry-free writing tips stored there, and I'm planning to feature a lot more of them. So yes,
Good,
thank you.
good.
So next up is the Libro editing blog by fellow editor Liz Dexter. Liz is someone else who writes for everyone, not just advanced writers. So she's done some brilliant posts that student and new academic writers will find really useful. And they cover topics such as plagiarism and references in academic writing, but also some great tutorials for editors and writers who are novices with tools such as Excel and Word. It's a great resource. I actually used some of her blogs on setting up MailChimp, I think it was. I'm sure she
Yeah,
had some on that. Really
yeah.
helpful in sort of wider things around being an editor and running an
Yeah, and
editing
just sort
business.
of anybody who works with words and doesn't want to get stuck with their writing because of technical things that are acting as obstacles. Really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So my next shout out is for Sophie Plale's Liminal Pages blog. Sophie was a guest in season 3. Can you hear my dog
No,
moaning?
no.
Oh, good.
Can you hear my chair
So
squeaking?
Sophie was no.
No, that's good.
That Sophie was a guest in season 3 and she talked about developmental or structural editing and self-editing. She has a wealth of knowledge about fiction storycraft, and while she does cover sentence level guidance on her blog, there's also some excellent advice about synopsis, submission, getting feedback, using metaphor, understanding theme, characterization, viewpoint, and loads more.
Yeah, there's just so much there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Our next choice is the Creative Pen blog, hosted by Joanna Penn. Joanna is a prolific writer, both of fiction and non-fiction, but she's also a savvy authorpreneur. I have to say that's a word I have struggled with a little bit there.
I could tell.
Yeah.
You kind of had a little pause.
Yeah, it's I think all these preneur words don't quite do it for me. But anyway, sorry, that was a distraction. But so head to this blog for great advice from her and her guests. There's something for everyone, whether you're looking to improve craft in a particular genre or to develop your writing business.
Yeah. Now, next up is the Book Baby blog. I think there's a little bit of a fiction bias in the How to Write archive, but it's worth any writer checking out anyway, because there's something for everyone in this, including guidance on self-publishing, promotion, and writing tools. Best of all, just like with Writer's Digest, there's a search tool so you can type in keyword terms like business writing or character, and you'll see everything available.
Yeah, yeah. So the next pick is the Ally or Alliance of Independent Authors blog. We're both huge Ally fans and we love what they're doing to push indie publishing forward. And in addition to all the advice about the business end of the self-publishing journey, there are plenty of craft articles on mapping a novel, plotting, character, narrative arc, punctuation and research, so it's really worth checking that out.
Our next feature blog is Emma Darwin's The Itch of Writing, and in case you're wondering, yes, she is related to Charles.
She is, yeah.
So Emma's blog focuses on fiction and creative non-fiction. She's a writer, a teacher and editor, and I love her stuff. There's guidance on story and line level craft, everything from plotting to the nitty-gritty of punctuation. And I like the personal feel to her articles. It's like sitting in a room with her. That's how I feel when I read her things.
Yeah, definitely. It's very, very sort of personal like that, yeah. Finally, we have Jane Friedman. Jane's award-winning blog has invaluable guidance on getting published, writing proposals and query letters, and there's help on characterization, revision, narrative arc, suspense, dialogue, and loads more. It's just a massive treasure trove.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm listening to us talk about this stuff, and I'm still sort of getting a sense that in the blogging world, there is a bias towards fiction and creative non-fiction. I think there's still a lot more to be done for unless we're just not seeing it.
Well, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, it may well be that there are people writing stuff but we're not seeing it. So, which asks the question, why are we not seeing it? Are they writing all this fantastic stuff but not promoting it in a way that?
Because even if I tend to be drawn more towards fiction blogs, you're with your specialist field, you know, you wouldn't be like that. So
no.
So it is an indication that there's room out there, I think, for more writing on this stuff.
Yeah, and more regular writing. I think that's the thing. Is you know, I think probably a lot of our editor colleagues who've got websites, they'll have a blog and they've maybe got a couple of things on it, and they could be really good things, but if you're not updating and refreshing your blog regularly, it's not going to be visible really. So
and also that's a good reminder that when you've got a blog, if you have a blog and you're not actively doing anything with it, even if you've got old content but that's evergreen, that's still rewarding and valuable and useful to readers, do keep putting it out, do keep distributing it. That's what we always say, isn't it, Denise?
Absolutely.
Like, keep putting it out there, because social media, for example, is so noisy that lots of stuff gets missed in people's feeds, and I still get people commenting on and clicking through, and I know you do too.
Absolutely. Stuff from years ago.
Yeah, from years ago, because it's relevant now.
Exactly.
And I always think it's you know, if you've taken all the time to write this stuff, put it on a blog, then share it.
Exactly, because it's not going to be the same people that are seeing it. Yes, people will see it that have seen it before, but they'll just scroll on by, whereas every time you put it out, there's an opportunity for somebody new to read it and realise there's another resource there for them. Yeah.
And that would apply to author blogs as well, if you've got an author platform. You know,
definitely.
Same thing. You know, keep pushing your info out there.
Yeah, and keep people up to date with what you're doing. Yeah. Well, we went slightly back there, but I think that was a useful little discussion. Yeah. So, well, now it's time for Esty Bites, and this is the regular bit of the show where we each recommend a favourite resource that we think you'll find useful. So mine this week is the online shop Cult Pens. We all know that editors and authors can be obsessed with stationery and pens, and Cult
Which
Pens,
is another way of Denise saying that she's obsessed with stationery.
She just have a ridiculous collection. And I know I'm not the only one, so I don't even feel bad about it actually. But Cult Pens claims to have the widest range of pens on the planet. I think it's something like they stock 20,000 different types of pen.
Oh
Everything
God,
from
I
your
struggle to buy shampoo.
Oh
This
God,
is
I know it's too much choice. It is overwhelming, but everything from,
yeah.
your bog standard, everyday pens right up to the most amazingly beautiful fountain pens and inks. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't do much hard copy markup these days, but when I do, it's the pens that I get from Cult Pens that I always turn to. If anyone's interested, it's the Pilot G-Tech C4, which writes, writes a 0.2 millimeter line, which is perfect for precision when you're doing textual markup with proofreading symbols. That was a
I'm
little
trying to
bit of
get
technical
excited.
stuff
Oh,
for you.
but with a swoon to it.
I know. I just love it. See, that's the geek coming out in me. I'm very
Yeah,
sorry. Anyway,
I
anyway,
know.
Louise, what's your editing bite this week?
I'm gonna move away from pens. Mine is Sol Stein's book, Stein on Writing. Now, what I like about this is that he shows non-fiction writers how to write and revise using some of the tricks from fiction editing. So the book is for writers. It's not just it doesn't just focus on non-fiction. I didn't want to of that. So
Right.
anyway, as Stein himself says, it's not intended as a theory text, but as a compendium of solutions to help writers write better.
Oh,
Definitely worth a place on any author or editor's bookshelf.
great. So that's it for this week. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Editing Podcast. You can rate, review, and subscribe to us via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever platform you prefer.
And as always, all the links we mentioned are in the show notes. Bye for now.
Bye. Just about all the Sorry, let me start that again. Hang on. Yeah, there are loads of brilliant blog posts. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, Mrs. Blooper.
I
It's
know.
nice to see you for a change.
Let's try that again.